I see a question by Brian Monternaut, and I am going to open his mic and see if he... Brian, are you there?
I'm right here.
Oh, I'd love for you to ask your question.
Great, thank you. I'm a voice teacher in the Department of Theater at the University of Utah. And one question I'm constantly addressing with my students. As a composer, what do you feel is the balance between honoring a score and being true to those written pitches and rhythms versus the idea of making it your own and having the freedom to play around with those composer-provided rhythms and parameters?
Hi, thanks, Brian. Brian, right?
That's right.
Get the name right?
Yes.
Brian. Thank you. Hi, Brian, in Utah. That is the question. And with a living writer, you'll get the answer from that person. And because and it's very easy. It's very easy. When I come into the room, we just did a new production of Big Fish in Boston, where we've reduced the show to 12 actors and 6 musicians with a new orchestration. We worked with the company there, this professional theater company in Boston called Speakeasy Stage, and they had done a lot of work prior to my arriving, and then I arrived with John August, my writing colleague, and we are able to say, oh, great, hey, I want you to, make sure we should put this down a whole step because this isn't quite comfortable in your range, and I want you to cut off on 4 because blah, blah, blah. And I'll just say what it is, and everybody, because they have a healthy respect for the guy who created it, they say, oh, yes, of course, we'll do it that way. And then the pendulum on the other side, I'm talking about pendulums a lot today, I suppose, opposites as it were, or sides, is when, for example, I went to Berlin some years ago and saw a production of Turandot, and they set it in the future, and Caliph, instead of ringing a gong, jumped all over a giant cell phone that he had to climb onto, and Turandot came out of a 4-story teddy bear that got pushed on stage. And this was just, to me, the most absurd thing I've ever seen. I thought it was ridiculous. And while the music may have been treated well, the whole presentation of it was bizarre to me and was beyond what the piece was about. Our students in an educational environment, and you're doing a musical. All of my licensing companies, MTI and TRW, Theatrical Rights Worldwide. I have Big Fish and Addams Family are at TRW. All of them make available the score and the piano vocal score, and you can change the keys. You can change keys of things in the show. Now, if I came to see your production in Utah, I might be a little surprised and maybe a little unhappy because I also write scores where key relationships are important, and it depends on the show. John and Jen, for example, the key relationships are very important because it's a through-composed piece. But something like Big Fish, where there's a song that stands alone, let's say, for example, Stranger, which is a song that the character of Will, the son, sings early on in the show. It's in C major. He has a lot of G's to sing. If you have an actor who can't really sustain those G's, or where the tessitura, it's even more about the tessitura, is too high, put it in B-flat major. And my licensing company will send you the orchestra parts in B-flat major. The modern world with Finale, the music notation software we use, or Sibelius, some people use that, is a place where we can make these choices much, much easier for our students to be able to sing material. I wouldn't say if you've got a bass and you cast him in a role that's normally played by a tenor, that doesn't serve anybody. But if you've got a young man who's got it's slightly a push for him to sing it in that key, bring the key down. And I think I talk about this all the time because this is what we do in the professional world. When you go get a suit and it kind of fits but not perfectly, what do? We have it tailored. Take it a little here, and you shorten the sleeve, and you lengthen the pant, and we should be doing this with living, breathing work, and frankly, I think we could be doing this with the work by people who are no longer living. I suppose I shouldn't speak for anybody else because there are all sorts of lawyers who are going to call me, but I think that we have to approach the work as fluid stuff. What I I care about is intention, integrity, authenticity. I care that if you're going to do the song Stranger in B flat, it's because it sounds on the edge of this particular performer's voice. When he sings the F at the end of the song, that should be that. It shouldn't be like so easy that he just tosses it off. It should sound like it's effortful, or again, I'm being careful. That's not a very good voice teacher word, but I think you know what I mean. And so I think these are the things we can and should experiment with our students.
Sure.
Terrific. Brian, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. I'm going to put you mute you back then. And
Muted.
Question from Vanessa Nelson, and I'll read it for her. It says, I teach privately in Portland, Oregon area.